Hey, this is Zac.
And I'm Clint, and we wanted to thank Exoterra for sponsoring this episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.
Exoterra is the industry leader in glass terrarium enclosures, and we are a big fan of getting to see the species we work with both at home and at the university.
We utilize Exoterra caging here at Metazotics, and in addition to top quality terrariums, Exoterra offers an array of heating options, lighting, supplements, decor, and truthfully anything needed or wanted when keeping reptiles.
Thank you, Exoterra, for supporting Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. As always, Zac here with the one and only Clint Bartley. How are you today, sir?
Doing well, man. I tell you what, the weekend certainly got me exhausted. So, and then we're recording. We're doing this show on a Monday. Normally we have Monday to get things wrapped up, and then we're doing on Tuesday, but no rest for the wicked, I guess. So yeah, this is one I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, it is the end of the semester for me. This is the last week of classes. So soon I just go to research mode, which will be wonderful. But this is when all the chaos ensues because we're getting near the end. Students are realizing, oh crap, I may not pass. So the panic's ensuing. Other students have known this for a very long time and not necessarily accepting their fate. And then there's this thing called a graduation audit where the registrar checks everybody to make sure they can graduate. Normally those are done in February. For some reason, they were done this weekend. So today ended up proving to be quite problematic, learning about all the kids who have 1 credit hour to graduate. They need 2 credit hours, and solving all those problems. So that's why it says survival mode engaged. I just got to make it to friggin' Friday. And then next week, I do a great big crayfish training for a bunch of professional biologists. So on top of everything, I got to make sure my I's are dotted. I's are dotted, T's are crossed. It's going to be a busy week, but tonight's going to be good because people asked for this episode. I've had quite a few people reach out and say, why don't you bring a student on to get their perspective? And the student we're going to have tonight is Tyler Schwisow. I can't say his last name, hence he's just Tyler. Yeah, Tyler. And he is the first student to successfully defend his thesis, which is based in Iowa, which means it was funded by the Colubridfest auction and the Colubrid Conservation Corp. So we're going to hear about Iowa from a student's perspective, hear about what it's like to go to school for herpetology, hear about herpetoculture, because that's the connection and how Tyler ended up from California into West Virginia, which is quite a hike. So it's going to be a fun episode. And I'm really looking forward to it. But before then, we have news. So I know you had a busy weekend. It was your birthday, too.
It was my birthday. Yes. And
Happy birthday, big guy.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. And thank you to everyone who gave me a shout online and through messages. I really appreciate it. Spent my birthday working a show, the Indianapolis show. And we do a show in Indianapolis regularly. It's put on by Brian Hahn, who owns ARS Caging and American Rodent Supply. But this is his 2-day show, which is, and I'm going to talk about it on the market update, but it was great. I mean, we had a real good time. It was me and Kaylee, who runs our nursery now. She's dynamite at the shows, and I love having the individual who's running the nursery at the shows with me, because inevitably I get asked, is this unfrozen thawed? And I'm like, and I just turn it. And she just looks at a snake and, yes, that one's doing this and this one's doing that and that one's doing this. And I may know everything about the species, but she knows that animal. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so that was really exciting. And it was good. I mean, real good. And like I said, I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. But, as far as things out here in Metazotics, we're looking at a big expansion piece that, it may even, I don't want to I can't give too much on details, but it'll be either a big expansion piece for Metazotics, or it might actually be a separate company that feeds Metazotics in a way. And so I'm designing this big business plan right now for it, because I have to figure out whether or not it's something we can do ourselves, if we may need to obtain a little financing to pull it off. And if so, I need to have all the paperwork, lined out to be able to present it. So plus and here's one of the great things about doing a business plan is you kind of figure some other pieces out that you weren't anticipating. And it might even cause me to go a different direction, and because this still needs to happen, but maybe we do something different first that has nothing to do with that because of certain pieces. So I know, very cryptic, but I've got graphs all over the place, Zach. I mean, it's me 100%, man. So, you'd love it. Spreadsheets. I use one big Excel spreadsheet that I work off of, and I take the data and I throw it into graphs. So I've got Excel open that I'm working this. I've got PowerPoint open that I'm moving these graphs over to and flow through them. And it's a mess. I mean, it's
nice.
Chaos. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But pairing is going great. We actually are seeing on multiple occasions, we've seen locks from the king rat snakes this year.
Nice.
And normally, even when they bred for us consistently in the past, I never saw locks. I mean, they're very secretive. But we have a new hide box system that was designed by Andrew. That it's not printed like the other nest boxes, but it's the same concept on entrance. And we'll show what this is like, because I've had him make a bunch of them, but I've kept every one of them so far. It's going to be for large, like indigos can work in this size. And so we've put the king rats in there, and they love them. Get in it and they hang their heads out and watch you pull their heads back. And so very cool. But, so we saw that, but on the downside, I've had at least 2 clutches now of Korean rat snakes just slug out. And these were different males, different females. And so that was a bit weird. We're trying to figure that out. But I do want to share 2 things real quick. One, I thought is happening right now. When I closed the door about 30 minutes ago, as we kind of started talking, it looked okay outside. It's been raining and storming off and on, but it's supposed to get real bad here in a little bit. And, we've been through this before, right?
Yes, we have.
So what I thought was funny is I was told earlier that we didn't just have a tornado warning. We had a PDS tornado warning. And I'm like, I've never heard of a PDS tornado warning. So all I can think is it means they're pretty damn sure that we're going to get a tornado out here, because that's, it's going to happen.
There you go.
But speaking of weather, I had an incident this weekend that I just think if anyone's going to appreciate it, Zach, it's going to be you.
Okay.
So we get to Indianapolis on Friday, late afternoon, and start loading in. And this is a show that we've got a lot of space, and so we really come heavy. We have these 2 large carts that, I mean, I don't know what they even go to, what they were originally made for. They're so big, but we got 2 of them and they both will fit on the trailer, and so we pack them. And so it's just, it saves a bunch of trips. Well, we already took those in. And I think we were taking 6 rolling carts, racks that have product on them. Had already taken 4 of those in. We had 2 left, and we still had the animals in the vehicle to bring in. It's getting dark, but not dark because it's late.
Yeah.
Big storm's coming. I tell Kaylee, I say, look, why don't you go ahead and unload this cart, and then once it's unloaded, you can bring it out and throw all the boxes with the animals on the cart, and so we can take them in one trip. While you're doing that, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get these last 2 racks off of the trailer and bring them in. So I get 1 rack off, and it's the heaviest rack we have because it's got a bunch of substrate, bunch of Repti chip, things like that on it. And I set it down. I go back in, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get both racks off, because I can move 2 racks at once and get them in and save the time. So I start getting the second rack off, and it does not sprinkle. It didn't warn you like that. It was straight monsoon, man. You couldn't even see across the parking lot. It was raining so hard out of nowhere. So that sucked. But as I'm getting that second cart down the ramp, I look over, my substrate cart's rolling away. And so, you know, I'm going chit as I'm running now. I get this cart stopped and I'm running to catch the other one, and I can see what's about to happen. It's about to hit a dip and hit a manhole. And right on the other side of that, there's these really big, like 3 foot in diameter concrete flower pots. They're massive all the way around. And I know it's going to hit, it's going to fall. Sure enough, before I could even it hits that, tips over, smashes in one, busts out the back of the rack. And the problem though, and I've got these, it's not a tarp, it's a cover that is made to go over these racks. And so they all have these covers. Well, it smashes, you know, that. Well, now I'm out there by myself and I have to pick up this rack that is incredibly heavy. Luckily, I can do that. So, but I have to get it back up on its wheels. Well, while I'm wrestling that and I get it up, set it down, the cover has blown off the other rack in the monsoon. You know, I turn around and get that. Well, while I'm doing all this, one of the guys from that works at ARS and setting up the show sees this happening. He runs out to help me. He grabs the substrate rack, starts backing up, forgets about the pot behind him, that flower pot.
Oh no.
He hits it. He's a big guy too. He hits it. Just boom. He's over. He's down. He's bleeding all, you know, from his legs. And so that was bad. I'm wrestling to get this covered up. I'm not done. So then he gets that. We pick anything that fell off. We finally get everything in. And when I say drenched, it was literally like I might as well just been standing in a pool because I was soaked to the bone, my shoes and socks included, right? But I could not help but laugh because about 4 days earlier, I got some new shoe cleaner and I had sprayed my shoes down. It's like this foamy stuff. And you scrub your shoes with a brush. And so I did all that. Well, now, as I am walking to my table, slop, you know, I look down and apparently there was still a lot of that cleaner on and in my shoes because it looks like I've got 2 dishwashers on my feet.
Oh my God.
There's suds just rolling out of my shoes and on top of my shoes. And it's all everywhere, just tracks all the way across the floor. I'm like, you're such a dork. You know, as I'm just looking down at this.
What did Kaylee do?
Oh, well, see, I walked up and she sees that I'm drenched. She's like, oh my God. And I'm like, look down. She looked at my shoes and she just started cracking up. Just started laughing. So I'm like, it is what it is.
That was a little epic,
try off
man.
one of the racks while I'm trying to piece this other one together. But all in again, it was a great time. It was going to be real bad if my shoes didn't dry out that night.
Yeah.
It did dry out on the air conditioner in the hotel room, luckily. So
good.
But yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, I can't stand wet. Next day wet shoes is it's a special kind of hell.
Oh, I'd already decided they were still wet. We were going to go get a pair of Crocs or something because I was not going all weekend slopping around in shoes because I don't sit down. You know that at a show. So it was going to be ugly for sure. But yeah, it was a good time. And like I said,
well, the effort's what matters. And you put forth quite the effort. So there you go.
Oh yeah. So good stuff. Good stuff.
Great.
How about you? What's going on in your neck?
Not much of anything. I've got a bunch of things getting ready to lay eggs. I'm so mentally fried from the past month. I can't remember if I talked about this on the last episode or not. I don't think I did. Did I talk about the Madagascar hog on the show?
I don't think so.
I don't think I did. So we talked about this excessively last year that I have these giant Madagascar hognose snakes are one of my oddballs that I've always liked them. And I went through a couple imports and they didn't do well. They would do really well and then they would just crash. And so I did it the right way. And all the way back in like 2020, 2021, I got a couple captive bred animals. I got one rando from Morph Market that someone had started. And then I got another one from Jennifer Joseph, who was our second guest we had on Colubrid and Colubroid Radio many, many moons ago. And so I raised these things up. They're now these like 5.5 foot, 6 foot, big old snakes. And I keep them together all year round because that's what you do with Leah Heterodon. And last year, female got gravid, and that's when she rather infamously, I put a nice hide box in. Her cloaca was outside the hide box. She dropped a beautiful clutch outside of the box, laid one egg in the damn box, and they all went to hell and died, minus the one. I got a baby, so that was good. So this year, I was like, it's not happening again. And she was using the box all winter long. So I was like, all right, you know, she knows it's the box. And I saw her, and she was gravid as could be. And I think this was right after we recorded the last episode. I was in the garage where the snakes are, and she was out looking for food. Like, they're very responsive to keepers. They're kind of like a falsie in that way. So I saw her, and she was completely deflated. And I was like, aha, you laid your eggs. And so before I gave her a rat, I grabbed her hide box, which was heavy, and I brought it over, I have a cart that I do all my work with. And I was like, okay, there's a clutch in there. And I opened up, and the friggin' male is like, what the hell are you doing? Like, he was in the box, not the eggs. So I was like, she did it again. The eggs are somewhere in here. And I looked, and sure enough, they were under the hide box. So close. We're getting closer. She at least put them under something. But I'm pretty pumped about that. I got 14 eggs. All of them are good.
Nice.
So that's going to be a win. And normally they're hard to start, or can be hard to start.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was easy. My little baby ate right off the rip. It ate frozen thawed. I still have it. So I'll be able to, you know, add some captive-born Madagascar giant hogs to the realm of herpetoculture in North America, which is going to be pretty cool. Other than that, I just have a lot of snakes that are gravid. Not really dropping anything. I delayed my season on purpose because I didn't want to be away, and I knew I was away in April, and I wasn't away in May, and I think things are lining up nicely. So there's that. My last year, my Kings didn't go, and my Bulls went. This year, my Kings are all going, and I keep looking at my two. I only have 2 female Bulls. I'm going to have a lot more next year going, and they're in that weird, you look at them with one angle and you're like, oh yeah, that's gravid, and then you move your head over here and you're like, crap, she's not gravid. And so I can't, they're driving me a little crazy. So I'm giving them rats, and hopefully, you know, they are gravid because baby bull snakes are the best. And then let me see here, my wide-banded Pinellas King project. I don't know many people that have those. If you have those and you're listening to this show, reach out to me, please, because that's my special locality project. They were relatively easy to get about 8 years ago. Now I don't know anybody that's producing them besides me, but I know somebody else is producing them. I'm like, so I'd love to know who that is. But I have this giant female. And last year, I got her and the other male mixed up. So I put 2 males together. You're not going to get eggs if you do that. My PhD told me that. So anyway, this year, I made absolutely certain the female is with a male, and it's a male from another locality, same phenotype. And they locked up, I think, within a minute of being in the tub. I heard thrashing, went upstairs, came back down, and they were locked. And she's a big snake. She's for a king. She's pushing 6 feet.
Nice.
And she is just loaded with eggs. So now I'm just praying that they're fertile. I just want to make sure, because I'm probably keeping all of them and then, you know, keep them for a couple years and then move the offspring. Because that's the only clutch I have this year. 2 of my females passed away last year with that weird throat thing I was talking about on one of the episodes. So lots of, you know, potential. It's just nothing's on the ground yet. So
yeah, I think we've got some Nablaki eggs on the ground. There's something else that had laid, but the thing that has me, well, it had me concerned last year too. They always do. Is normally I have green bush eggs first.
Yep.
Seen them, but I don't have it. They don't even look gravid to me, but they kind of did that to me last year, and it was you know, later in the season that they went and finally dropped.
The colubrids that lay in like June, July, not my favorite. I like the ones like they get the job done. You can tell they're gravid this time of year, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get eggs. I also have our combined hognose group. I have not tons. I think I have 8 gravid females right now. They're all right here. I had to actually, I'm going to tell you one thing, and Tyler will talk about tonight. Wild hognose snakes are these like cryptic animals that are like masters of their domain. And then there's captive hognose snakes, which I think might be the dumbest captive snakes. I love them. I'm writing a book on them, but God almighty, I can't pick. Can I pick this up? All right. See this? This is a light cage. Okay. It was randomly on my floor right down here. I had a male hognose snake get out of these stacks. It had the whole room. Right before I came on, I looked down, and that hognose snake was just sitting in this thing.
He's like, this kind of looked like a trap. So I thought it was, this is where I should go.
I'm hiding because I'm in something.
I'm hiding. You can't see me.
Yes. So anyway, and then final thing, I guess, before we go to the other sections of the intro, so we talked about wanting to write a paper about the Whitman boxes and the nest boxes, because it's just a cool story. And me being the scientist that I am, I was like, I've got to actually test this, and we might be able to put in something like responsible horticulture. Inside all the hog cages are those nest boxes you sent me. And I'm actually doing a thing where I'm comparing. I have these plastic water trays from Lowe's. I just cut a little C in so they can get under it. And then I got the Metazotics box, or the Whitman boxes, in there. And right now they're just in there. And what's been really interesting is that, at least for the hogs, they are definitely choosing to go into the Whitman boxes over the old hides. Like, I know we talk about them as a nest box, but I think that you should be marketing them as just a badass snake hide.
It's 100%. Every snake that we put it in with, we see the same results. You know, they choose it. And I mean, if you've got a pair together in a cage, they're both in it. I mean, they want them. And that's like I said, even these king rats with this design, which it's basically the same design. It's just a container difference. They're all immediately in them too. So I'm not surprised you're seeing that at all.
No, it's been super cool. So anyway, that's what's going on here.
Love it.
I will be much more in it to win it mentally the next episode. So
well, I do want to give a quick Colubridfest update. Yes. So we've got like flyers in now. I've been passing those out, obviously, with everybody that comes through. I say the team's been doing it in both locations. We were able to pass some out at the Indianapolis show. I want to thank Brian Hahn, who runs that show, for allowing us, to promote a different show, as well as, other vendors actually were putting these out on their tables as well, because they support Colubridfest in a big way. The updates we saw a message today in the Colubridfest page, the Facebook group, that they had one room left at the hotel, the one that's linked. I'm going to reach out to Mickey to see if we can get that expanded and get another, in addition to that block. But I will say, if you haven't booked your hotel already and you want that hotel, you better do it now, because it may already be gone by the time I'm saying this. However, the good news is you will be able to find a place to stay in Evansville. It's not going to be an issue. You just may not stay in that hotel if they're already booked up. But, now it is. You snooze, you lose. So, and I will also, while I probably shouldn't do this because I'm already so incredibly busy that it's getting harder and harder to stay on top of messages. If you're looking at an Airbnb,
I was just about to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, because we love to do that when we travel. I mean, it's great. If you're looking at some, there's only one zip code I would tell you not to go to, but I don't feel comfortable saying it here because I don't want to put anybody down that lives in that zip code. In all fairness, I grew up in that zip code.
Yeah.
So, but if there's an area, if there's an Airbnb that you have a question, is this a decent area? Most of the time you can tell by the pictures, by whatever.
Sure.
But if it's one that's iffy, there's 2 areas in Evansville that I'm like, probably don't want to stay there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But everywhere else is fine. It's not like it's a bad city. And even those areas, nothing's going to happen to you. There's just, but if you want to message me, I'll tell you whether or not it's one that, you know, I would stay in.
And I looked up Airbnbs because I'm in Airbnb mode. That's where we stay for our field work.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that if you're worried about cost of lodging with Colubridfest, I looked at some of the Airbnbs just for funsies because there's a good chance that I'm going to end up bringing more people than I thought. And I think I only have 2 hotel rooms in the block right now. Evansville's got some friggin' reasonable Airbnbs that you can put a lot of humans into. So I would definitely consider that option if you're a little bit worried about finances. And then, you know, bring your crew and you'll split it and you'll be good to go. Because there was plenty of you know, situations where for the whole weekend it would be like $350, you know, $400, which you split that 3-4 ways. That's doable for a lot of people, and it might cut down on some expenses, and you just hang at the hotel and then go over there and sleep. Like, not that big a deal. So anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think we talked about it maybe on the last episode, but we're probably pushing it one more. But by next episode, you're rolling out 100%. Next episode, we will announce all the speakers and what the topics are. So you're going to start hearing a lot more about Colubridfest going forward. We're now at that kind of timeline where it's like, okay, we want to make sure everybody gets any updates we have as they roll in. So
no, we will have the speaking. Like I said, got to put this semester to bed. I don't want to do it just to get it done. I want to make sure we're thinking. We got to talk to a couple people before we get to get to that point. But the speaker list will be revealed on the next episode for sure.
All
so,
right.
Okay.
Well, I will roll into the market update if that's good for you. As always, the market update is brought to you by Show Me Reptiles, the Show Me Reptiles Show, and Show Me Reptile Marketplace. As we all know, Mickey and his crew are who allow Colubridfest to exist. So we thank them for that. Show Me's got shows all over the place, and they've been doing some nice enhancements to the marketplace. So check that out. And as always, we say, if there's a Show Me show near you, go support them, support those that support us. And by us, we mean those of us in the Colubrid community. So the market update that I'm going to give this round, kind of 2 things. One, I want to tell you that there's some new caging that'll be coming out from different manufacturers. So 3 different companies have some really cool things that I've been privy to. The one, and I don't have pictures of this. I'll probably on the next, I'll start posting some pictures. But Vision has some neat habitats that they gave me like 3 of them to be able to bring back to the shop and play with and probably set up. But they're tubs, like actual, think of very nice storage containers, how they clamp down the lids and everything. But then the sides have been taken out to where you have kind of swinging doors that open. So it's kind of like front in. So it's a tub that has a front entrance, right? Front opening. But then the top, it's been kind of routed out. So you take these 2 little knobs, pop them open. You take the top, the piece in the middle of the lid off. So the lid's still completely on it. But then you've got a grate where you can put lights. The cords will run out of. You can run probes inside through here, all with the lid still secure on there. I mean, it's incredible. It's amazing how much thought they've put into this tub. And then once you've run all your lights and you put your plate back on, they're stackable totes, and they come in all these different sizes. Some of them are really big. Some of them are, I'm sitting here thinking, man, this one size, I look at it, I'm like, I could get a dozen of those, and then I could get several emerald tree boas, green tree pythons, and that would be our quarantine area, for them. It would be fantastic. So there's some really cool things, coming from them. So that's one. There's another that I'm not talking about yet, and I keep hinting to this because it's one of the coolest designs I think I've ever seen. And it's going to be coming from one of a very popular cage maker out there. So I know, Zach, I know you know about it, and it's wicked. It's really wicked.
It is very wicked.
That's going to be some that we'll get some pictures out once it's cleared for us to do so. We may even bring two people are involved in making these happen, and I guarantee you're going to know the company from one, and the other is one of the most recognizable faces in the industry. So we may have them come on and talk about this design whenever it actually gets rolled out. And I will say Metazotics is very lucky to be a part of a particular program where one of the sizes you can only get in a certain way, and we will be one of those ways. So that's one. The third is a new Exoterra product I mentioned before. And I think in just a few weeks, we're actually going to have Steve, who did our UVB episode with us from Exoterra. I think he's going to come back on. And it's a knockdown terrarium. If you guys are familiar with that, it's a terrarium that you actually build so it can come flat packed, 4x2x2. But there's some definite enhancements. One of which I think is really cool is instead of having a corner where the pieces slide in, it's actually curved glass around the corners, which strengthens the 4x2, completely. So I got to see one of those in Tinley. It was really wicked. I think some of those are coming out to us too, Zach, to try and sample. So it's just really cool that you keep, I say this over and over. You keep seeing these big players find innovative ways to enhance these different segments. You know what I mean? Of the husbandry piece. So, and all three of those are all cages. And I just think it's really cool that every one of them are cage types that already exist, but improved upon. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's really neat to me. So that's the kind of the product piece I wanted to talk about. But now I want to talk about that show in Indianapolis because there were some pretty cool things. That's right, Montross. Everything's wicked. It's making fun of me. Chris Montross in the chat. Everything is wicked tonight. So, all right. So the show in Indianapolis. What I wanted to talk about was how well that show went and how I know I keep hammering that presentation is important and the power of presentation. So Indianapolis already has a show that ARS puts on. It's not monthly. I want to say there's seven, maybe 8 shows that they do a year. And I really like the way that Brian spaces it out. Like you have a show every month during tax season. That's smart. Then he knows when to skip a month and he knows, how to spread them just right. But my point to saying that is there's already a show presence that he has. However, he's still able to make this 2-day show something much bigger. And he goes into the way that he promotes it, the way that he advertises it. You get much bigger vendors that come, big caging vendors. Josh's Frogs comes to this one, where the regular show is a regional show that doesn't draw that kind of a vendor typically. And so he also, you would think, I remember first year, I'm wondering, is there really going to be a bigger turnout? Is it just going to be the same regional show, but we're here for 2 days? No, because of the way he presents it and promotes it. Yes, it's a much bigger turnout. I mean, it really, I'm impressed with what he's able to do with this. And, again, the power of presentation. I will also say that with the way that Metazotics was able to lay out the spread there, we actually had the best show we've ever had. And we have had great shows this year, and we've had great shows in the past. This was hands down the best show we've ever had from a volume standpoint. Again, tip my hat to Kaylee. She was fantastic, the entire weekend out there. There's because they know if you do a show with me, I leave the table a lot because I'm working different things and making different connections. And she's able to handle. And when I say handle it, she was working 3 full tables of animals and 6 carts, 6 6 product racks by herself at times. So she really did great. So what I want to get at is when we hear the complaints about the market, you can be extremely successful if you put the effort in, and I know that's something we continue to say over and over and over again, but I continue to see it over and over and over again. And we see it in multiple ways. Shows have been very strong, very, very strong this year. But then I come back today, and we've sold like 7 snakes today online. Just, I mean, pop, 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 so it's, it continues to work all around if you put the effort in. But there's another really cool thing that I liked seeing at this show. And it goes to show how it can be, because there's certain, you'll have bickering between certain vendors or this competitive nature or whatever. But at this show, there were multiple vendors that were sending people over to us for our caging. So they'd sell a snake, and who you need to go see is Metazotics. They've got the perfect caging right now, for you. Go talk to them.
Oh, cool.
That was fantastic. There were several times we're sending people because, okay, they're getting the cage. They want to set it up. All right, I'll tell you what, you want to set it up bioactive. It's going to be fantastic. Here's the bedding right here. You want to go down to the end and see our friends down here for all your springtails, isopods, your extra leaf litter, all the things to really get it set up and rolling. And so we're sending them to vendors. If there were species that I knew, hey, here's who you want to go talk to, they've got those. There was so much of that going on that we at least were privy to. I had there were 2 different vendors who actually walked folks over to us to come get the products they needed for whatever it was they were selling, whatever species. And I'm like, that's how it should be. Not just because Metazotics was benefiting in that area, because we were doing the same thing. It was inverts. Hey, I'll tell you who you need to go see for inverts. They're right over here. Here's who we had, whatever. And it was great. It was great. So, I just think that when you have the right mentality, when you want to work with others, when you want to collaborate rather than compete, you will be surprised how successful you can really be. So
that's cool.
That's kind of what I wanted to share, because that's what I saw this week, and I'm still kind of riding high from that. You know what I mean? It felt good. It felt really, really good. So that's the market update that I have. I'll toss it now over to you. Let's hear some science.
Sure. That was a fun one. I like that one. Okay. Science update, as always, brought to you by our friends at Rare Genetics Inc. I will, while they're doing all the morph testing and we want to do that, send them your sheds. I would 100% say, if you've ever wondered about the sex of your snake and you want a 100% guarantee on it, you can't beat the sexing options that they have. You just send them a shed skin. You can get that genetically. Like, the chromosomes are right there, and Ben can find them. So by all means, use that code CCR15. You'll get a nice discount, and you'll also be able to determine your snake sex, which is a good thing. So, all right, the book that we're going to be talking about tonight, all right, I can't even talk about this book without losing my ability to talk. It completely blew me away. Completely, totally, 100% blew me away. It's brand new. It's a little pricey, but I will say, just buy it. If you're into Asian snakes, you need this one. And you could kill a man with this book. And so it is my friend Kevin Messenger's The Venomous Snakes of China. When this book came out, well, first of all, I go all the way back to when I was writing my book. So when I was writing my book, there's a group of snakes, Pseudoxenodon, that had a really interesting history. They were thought to be dipsadids, and they weren't thought to be dipsadids. And then one guy knew they always were their own family, and then one guy said they were colubrids, and just all that jazz. And I wanted to get that in the book because a lot of people think, they're analogous to false water cobras in a lot of ways. They're distantly related, blah, blah, blah. And I needed pictures for my book of pseudoxenodon, and I knew Kevin. The reason why I know Kevin is Kevin and I both got our master's degrees at Marshall. I got my master's and was out of there in the fall of 2005, which was the fall, I believe, Messenger came into the lab. And I actually, the first time I met Kevin was before either one of us were in the positions we're in now. He wanted to take pictures of a salamander. I knew where that salamander was, and we met in a swamp. It was about as nerdy as it gets. So anyway, we have this kind of academic heritage together. And so I knew of Kevin, reached out to him, and he was able to send me all these obscure pictures. And he mentioned at the time, I knew about the rat snake book, that he was working on this Venomous Snakes of China book. And at the time, I distinctly remember thinking, God almighty, Kevin, that's a lot of snakes. I was right. So if you can't see in your car, this thing is a solid 2 inches thick. And it's
more 2 inches. That's at least 3. I mean, the thing is huge.
Yeah. Well, let's just go. It's close. It's over. Does it breach it? Yeah. It's 760 pages long, and it's a large book format. And I'm just going to randomly open up to a page. All right, I got a cobra. It's also, if you can see on YouTube, this book is beautiful. That was the thing that's blown me away. Normally, I know what it takes to make a book look this pretty. This is like the literal definition of a labor of love. So here is variation in Nasia atra. Yeah. And, you got to make that figure with all those cobra hoods. That's not something you're just going to get a picture of out in nature. So you may be wondering, why are we talking about this on Colubrid and Colubroid Radio? Loughman just showed a bunch of pictures of cobras. Those were elapids for my nerdy friends. Well, the back of this book has all the colubrids. It also has the colubroids in it. And the book is actually color-coded. I don't know if y'all that have, that's how big it is to make it easy to get to the end. The stuff that is, I believe, in blue. All right, so here you go, right off the rip. Here is the genus Pseudoxenodon. And the presentation is wonderful. And then all the species that occur in China are right here. Here's Pseudoxenodon bambusicola. And you get a nice range map. All the relevant information there. Nice photographs, many of them taken by Kevin, which is pretty awesome. For husbandry people, look at that bar graph. It shows the number of animals that were collected over top of the temperature and the rain, historic rain and temperature. So this is a must-have. I'm going to say that. Like at this point, modern day classic. I put this thing right up there with Schultz's monograph on Alefe for Asian.
That's woo.
And
that's
so,
high praise, my friend. High praise.
Yes, and what's great is I love when I get a book and I'm going through it and I'm learning as I'm flipping pages. So there's one thing I want to show all my Asian rat friends. I opened to this is the first page I opened to when I was in my office at West Liberty. So I just want you to think about your Asian rat snake. I didn't know this snake existed. So look at that and tell me what that looks like, Clint. This guy right here.
What I'm seeing there, that looks like it's got some bamboo rat snake influence look to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but also kind of with that, like a coral snake head.
That looks like a freaking bit like pulchra. I don't know what the common name of pulchra is. Oreocryptophis, whatever, pulchra. You're going to learn things in here. You're going to be able to make connections by this book, sitting in North America, Europe, wherever you are, because we all can't get to China readily. I never thought about the possibility of bamboo rat snakes being part of a mimicry ring with an elapid.
No, I had no idea.
I've never heard anybody talk about that. That might be complete garbage. But having a book like this can make it so you can sit there and come up with these little associations. I went down a rabbit hole. I lost the next 45 minutes of my life going over the range maps of bamboo rat snakes in this genera of elapid from China. Found out they have a lot of overlap. So there you go. But if you like venomous snakes, for the love of God, if you're into Asia, you just have to buy this now. Because what I have learned, being the bibliophile I am, is I have a new standard. The live snakes can wait. When the new book comes out, I'm buying it. Because I've seen this with my own damn book, that when I was selling them initially, they were like $45 for the hardback. And now they're double that.
And that's when you can get them, because there's a lot of times they shoot up to like 150 when you can't find them.
Exactly. So have to get yourself a copy of that. We might even go so far as to try to get Kevin on later on. The problem is he is in China right now. So for us to record with him, he's got to be up at like 3 a.m. It was really funny when I was trying to kind of tease out these Asiatic dipsadded snakes. He was my go-to guy. And I thought that he was in Charlotte, where he grew up, North Carolina. And I was like, where are you, Kevin? Oh, I got up to help you out. I was like, I don't know if I would do that for you, Kevin. Like, you're a great guy, man. Because it was like 3 a.m. or something insane. So wonderful guy. He obviously wrote the Asian rat snake book that was relatively recent that Matt helped him out with. But this thing, modern day Insta classic. I mean, I am beyond impressed with this thing. It's Kevin beautiful. It's worth every penny. Go get it. That's all I got to say.
And Kevin was actually where you and I saw each other on video for the first time. That bamboo panel that happened. What was it, 2020 when that occurred?
Yeah.
And,
that was pandemic time. He was the
one. That was the one that I say the infamous panel when it was, hello, doctor, Clint. Man. Yeah. Good stuff.
So good times. Definitely a book that is worth every penny. And I can't say enough good things about it. I sat in I think it was Friday night of this week. I just sat on the couch and was flipping kind of for fun. And I had to close it because I was going beyond fun to full nerd, and there's no coming back from that. And then I'll end up like not going to sleep until noon the next day. So anyway, so yeah, that's where that was. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. Once our guest shows up, there he is.
We have something first,
but we've got something else we need to talk about.
Yes,
that is very important.
This is good stuff. So I hope everyone is paying attention. And it's really exciting because for those of you who are on the live right now, you get to jump in first if you want to. So, we've talked, we mentioned lately and just barely our Patreon. And so before we even go into that, one of the things we want to say to everyone is please, if you're on YouTube right now, hit the like, hit the follow, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. As Zac says all the time, smash that like button. It's his favorite phrase ever.
I love it so much.
He is such Gen Z. I love it. But yes, please, we want to, whenever you do that, whenever you give us ratings on Spotify and things like that, it will help push us higher when someone is searching for things. And it's not even about us. We feel that what the guests bring to these shows is information you can't find anywhere else. So we want to make sure it is getting to as many people as it possibly can. But we got to talking and we wanted to do something kind of special. So we've often said that our Patreon, Zac and I feel that that's some of our best content. Yeah. It is just the two of us, but we really get to take a smaller topic and hammer it for, 30 minutes to an hour sometimes. And we really, really love it. And I mean, it's really fun for the two of us. So we say that all the time. Well, we decided we wanted to do something nice for everyone. And what we're going to do is we have created a code, a link that you can use. And Max is going to throw that up and how you can do it. Basically, we are giving away 1 month free on our Patreon, and it is the level that you can listen to or watch the shorts. So of course, you can binge them. You can do whatever you want to. We're doing this for 100 people. So that's it. It's 100. And we know how many people listen to this show. So that's probably going to go fairly quickly. Or we could just really think that it's special and, like 4 people do it. We don't know. But we're going to allow 100. Right now on YouTube, Max has a QR code up on the screen. He's going to post the link in the chat. He's also going to put this out on Discord as well as our social media platforms. And I think we will end up getting it on the website as soon as we can. May even post this in the Colubridfest group.
Sure.
But 100, there's going to be 100 people who are going to get a month free. And it doesn't like instantly roll over to where, okay, after that trial, now you're instantly paying. No, if you decide that you like what's there, we hope that you stay. But this is just a free month. It's a free month for everyone to check out the shorts, see what you think, see if you like it, give us feedback, give us more ideas on, because you'll get a feel for, okay, these are the kind of topics that they're hitting, with regularity, and throw them at us if there's something more that you want to hear about. But we just hope that you guys are going to enjoy it. We do. So let us know what you think.
Like it.
Hopefully we can click over on Patreon a little later tonight and see how many of you who are in the chat right now took us up on our offer. So hope you guys enjoy it. Right. We appreciate you all. So
yes.
All right.
Okay.
I think we're now moving into the guest segment. And as always, the guest segment is brought to you by ReptiChip. ReptiChip went on an adventure with me, as you heard earlier. So I was picking up blocks of ReptiChip all over the ground. They held up firm, and still were sold. As you guys know, we use ReptiChip for really anything that needs humidity out here at Metazotics. Zac and company use it for they use like the ReptiEarth and the others for the incubation out there at West Lib. It's a great product, so please support them. Turn it over to you.
Yeah, we actually set up a clutch of king snake eggs at the school today on ReptiChip. So there you go. Okay, so bringing to the stage the one and only Tyler. How you doing, Tyler? I'm going to try to say your last name. For 4 years that I have butchered your name every time I've tried it. So, Schwisow, is that correct?
Just say no.
Just say no. Oh, we can't hear you. Oh, no, technical difficulties.
I cannot hear anyone.
Oh, wait, we heard you.
We heard you now.
I can't hear anything. That's great.
Oh no, everything was working fine in pre-production.
All right, give us a minute while we figure this out. Okay, welcome to live television. Max, get him.
Good stuff. Well, while we're doing that, real quick, I just popped over because I was curious to see how fast it happened. There's already 5 people who have signed up for the 1 month free on Patreon in just those couple minutes. So that's really cool. Please, the only thing we're asking for in return is feedback. Let us know what you think. Want as much of that as possible. Tyler, can you hear us yet? Nope.
Given the lack of response, I'm going to go with no.
Nope. Agreed.
Okay.
All right. No worries.
Well, we got this.
Well, while we're waiting on Tyler, do you want to tell everyone who Tyler is and why he's on the show?
Sure. I'll give the intro to Tyler. Tyler can't hear. That's pretty awesome. So Tyler is on the show tonight because he's the first of the Iowa graduate students to basically defend his research. So when we came up with the idea with the very first Colubridfest of maybe we have an auction, the auction will ultimately go towards funding student research and people that, going into the field. And we built a relationship with our colleagues out in Iowa. Tyler was the very first of the students that I had in mind because he told me I want to do herpetology. I want to come on board and do a project. Initially, we had one project in mind, which hopefully we get him to hear us That didn't work out, but he ultimately ended up working with hognose snakes. And as you'll soon learn, he was parts of his thesis, a large portion of his research was funded by the funds that were delivered to the Conservation Corps through the Colubridfest auction. And then while we're talking about that, the students are actually out there right now. We have field season number 2 going. So that is kind of the background of Tyler without going into the background that he can then help us with. And I can see that he's going to a phone. So
can you hear us yet?
He's on stage yet? Nope.
I think he's talking to Max in the background.
Okay, he is. Mike, just be patient, please.
Well, we always have plenty to talk about. So,
well, I do want to point out something that the 2 40-year-olds were able to get this to work, and the 21-year-old is having problems. So, go Zennials.
That's right.
That before he can defend himself. So, anyway,
I love
go
it.
for it, Clint. What's up?
I love it. I don't know. Just we can kind of chat about some of the other updates, I guess, that we have going on. I mentioned before that we've got some personnel shifts that are going to be taking place.
Mm-hmm.
I think by next episode I'll be able to announce all of those fully.
Cool.
There's a bittersweet moment. Don't get me wrong that I'll have to share, but it's going to be for a really good cause. And then some really positive things are going to help us kind of catapult pieces in the future. So looking really, really forward to that. I'm thinking of all the shows that we've got coming up, of course, as well. The building is pretty much painted. Like if you drove by, you would think it's done. It's got like a little bit of coating in a few places that they've got to hit still, but it's no longer the 2 shades of turd that you knew about. It's nice black and white, looks great.
Why don't you have pictures of that all over the interweb?
Of the black or the brown?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't take pictures of the outside of this building. It looked horrible. But it will be
the new paint job though.
Well, as soon as it's completely done, there will be. But it's also, I was just talking today, the same individuals that put up the signs for us, the signage at the Henderson location, we're now looking at having some nice signage put on the Chandler building and, really upgrading it completely and having that set. So I'm afraid to see the quote, whenever after they come out here. But it's going to be worth it. It's all, we're putting on our pretty dress for Colubridfest. So that, we definitely look our best. And it's, like I said, it's time for the outside to match the inside, so,
yeah,
we're rolling with that. Let's see. We've got Tyler back in the studio. Can you hear us now, Tyler?
There we go. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Problem solved.
That was problem solved. Turns out if you turn it off and turn it back on, it usually works. So.
That's my secret to everything, and you know that.
Well, right, Tyler, cool. That gave you a very warm welcoming and kind of gave a little bit of background on you. But of course, now we're going to kind of turn that over to you. So, Zac, I guess I'm going to let you start this off on, what do we want to introduce about Tyler first?
Well, I want to know. So there's a lot of people listening that I know have reached out that want to do grad school, want to do, kind of a herpetology based undergrad. And so we thought we would do that as well. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions, but I'm not going to ask them at the same time. So first, just give everybody an introduction as to how long you've been doing snakes and at what point you were like, I'm going to college for reptiles.
Okay. I've been doing snakes since I was probably like 6. I think it started out with me catching lizards in the backyard. I grew up in California, so we were catching all sorts of Scoloporus lizards, and I would steal my sister's nail polish and paint their tails so I could tell which lizards I had caught already. And then it kind of transitioned into snakes from there. Unfortunately, where I grew up, we don't have a ton of snakes by my house, but whenever we would go vacation up by Yosemite, I would catch snakes there all summer. And that was always really, really fun for me. And I just was fascinated, and my parents were just amazing at really letting me like cultivate that fascination for them and getting me books, letting me read. I would do like little book reports for school. I was homeschooled, so that was one of like my writing assignments would be like do a little write up on a particular snake type of thing. And all throughout my like junior high school, my parents were very, very encouraging of you need to do what you love. Like you love these snakes, don't give up on that. Figure it out. What do you want to do? Do you want to become a zookeeper? Game warden, whatever that looks like. Let's figure that out, and we want to help you get there. And so from the moment I started with snakes, there was never really an alternative for me. This is what I wanted to do the whole time. There was no backup plan. So it was just kind of make it happen. And I've learned from Dr. Loughman, the best way to do things is to jump and then figure out how to land as you're falling. So that's what I have kind of aspired to do, I guess. And so I really found West Lib. Honestly, it was really funny. I was reading up, I was really fascinated with false water cobras in high school. And I just happened to be reading the Reptile Magazine's article on them. And this is around the time I was looking for colleges. And I decided, I never did this before, but I decided to scroll to the bottom and look who the author was. And it said Dr. Zac Loughman, professor of zoo science and applied conservation at West Liberty University. I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, kind of what I'm looking for. And so I clicked on it and it seemed really cool. And so I took it to my mom and we were looking at it and she's like, there's snakes everywhere here, Tyler. Like, this is perfect for you.
Yeah.
And so we came out and toured. And I had two options. There was one in Columbus and then West Liberty. And it was funny. My mom was very supportive of the fact that it was a good program, had lots of snakes. She would have preferred me by a larger airport so I could get home a little easier. But my dad was like, oh my gosh, Tyler, you could get lost in the woods for like 3 days here and no one would find you. Like, how great is this? And so that's really, really what I wanted. I've always been, into the outdoors. And so I just felt like I couldn't get West Liberty out of my head and decided to move to West Virginia from California and haven't looked back since. It's been pretty great.
Yeah. Very happy.
There had to be a strong selling point for that very last line there to have taken place. So I moved from California to West Virginia. I don't know how many people have said that in their lives.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps when the program has a 7-foot monitor lizard in it. So
yeah,
certainly does. Certainly does. Well, obviously we're going to get into Iowa and, everything like that, but this is a little bit more of a rarity, for us. So what was the first year like? Because obviously, you've been there a while now. You've gone through a lot. What was your first year there like?
First year was interesting. So obviously moving from California, I didn't know anyone. And I was pretty good at kind of finding people. And I actually so I came in with the freshman class, but we realized like I could, get some extra higher level classes done. So I could graduate a little bit early. And so I really wanted to be able to do that. So I jumped in with the grade higher than me, their ornithology class, and found a bunch of good friends there. The first semester was kind of rough. We were kind of playing it by ear, me and my family. I didn't go home at all that first semester. So it was pretty much, I got dropped off at school and then said, okay, I'll see you at Christmas, I guess. So I was having Thanksgiving with, different friends and their families. But luckily, one of the professors connected me with Dr. Loughman really quickly right off the bat. And Dr. Loughman was like, okay, we got to get you in on the snake project. And at that point, it was being ran by a grad student, Nikki. And she was doing some really fun radio telemetry stuff. And we don't do this anymore, unfortunately, but we had transmitters in queen snakes, and we had to track these queen snakes every 5 or 6 hours, and that included at 2 a.m. So there's little freshman me out on North Fork Road with a transmitter or with a box and a Yagi trying to find these snakes. It's pouring rain. I'm with, some senior that I've met like a week ago. So from that sense, I mean, it was awesome right off the bat. Just getting plugged into research like immediately was pretty incredible. And I realized very quickly I came in to do like zoo stuff. I wanted to be a zookeeper. And then I realized like, oh no, I want to be outside. Like I want to be with the snakes, getting the data. This is awesome. You know, it's pouring rain and most people wouldn't love this, but this is where I thrive. Like we're out catching snakes. No one's doing this. This is kind of a very unique thing that not a lot of people get to see. And it was just absolute blast to get to do that. So
Very cool.
I want to talk a little bit about when I found out Tyler existed, because I was in a meeting and my life is the way many people think it is at West Liberty. Tyler can attest to this. Like I breach the door. I purposely get to work about 10 till 7 so that I have at least an hour to get ready. Because once 8 a.m., 8:15 hits, the people show up, and being the department head and being the guy that's in charge of ZooSci, it's just, what fires are happening? How can I get them out? I got teaching, blah, 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 all the things. And one of the professors was like, hey, did you meet the kid from California? And I was like, no. and they were like, he's here because of you. And I was like, what? He was, yeah, he read your Reptiles magazine article, saw you taught here, and he's here now. And that was the way I was introduced about Tyler. And I was like, no, he's not. I thought they were literally joking. I thought they were razzing me because, oh, your thing's being seen again kind of thing. And I don't know if it was the next day or the day after. It was like the first couple of weeks of school. I heard about this mythical kid from California, and then he was standing in my doorway. And I was like, oh,
man from Nazareth.
I am here.
And it was like immediately. One of the things that I've learned as a teacher is you obviously have to kind of work your way up to get to the point where you've earned the right to go to the field. At the same time, though, you got to give people a taste right off the rip so they understand why it's worth working to get to that point. And I can say for Tyler, I knew immediately this kid's got it.
Nice.
He's whipping out genus names, and I've seen him for, an hour. And I was like, okay, yeah, you can just tell. And I could tell. And then it's been a very wild ride since. So, one quick thing though, because I do want the people to hear this, because I have the hardest time accepting that the universe gave you this. Can you, before we come back to West Liberty, we're just going to circle back to one thing. Can you talk about the first snake that you found? Because most people are like a garter snake, a ringneck snake, something common. Just tell the people Tyler's first snake story, because this is one of my favorite Tylerisms there is.
So my family, we go on a vacation every year up by Yosemite. And there's a hike with some waterfalls and whatnot. And I'd seen my cousins catch snakes. My oldest cousin, he is actually really into wildlife and is a big duck hunter now. But I'd seen him catch a bunch of snakes, but I had never like personally found one yet. So I think I was probably 7 or 8. And we're walking along this trail, and I see a red and black snake. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a snake, it's a snake. So me and my dad run over, and we're trying to look at it, and we determine it's not venomous, and it's a cool king snake. Well, years later, I realized that the first snake I found was a Lamprepeltis sonata. I've never found one since, actually, but yeah, that's my first snake story.
There's going to be field herpers who watch this and just like, I just picture having to hold him back there like, you son of a, you know what I mean? It's the first
that was
one.
The universe giving you a sign, man.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is my favorite thing to do. If Loughman's talking about like first snake catch stories with other students, like in a van on a trip, he'll talk about, what was your first snake, a Nerodia or something?
Mine was a garter snake.
A garter snake. And then I'll pipe up from the back of the van. I'll be like, yeah, mine was a Zonata. just throwing that out there.
Anyway, Okay.
So I'm going to have a question, and again, because I know we're getting close to going in deep into Iowa. But before I ask this question, I think it's a question that a lot of people are going to like. I do want to say we need to take a quick break. Make sure that we recognize another one of our sponsors, ZoomEd. ZoomEd does a lot for us. We're thrilled to be partnered with them. So Max, let's go ahead and hear from them. CCR is proud to be sponsored by ZoomEd Laboratories.
ZoomEd has been servicing the reptile industry since 1977. And in 1993, they introduced us to the Reftisat, the very first UVB bulb specifically for reptiles.
In addition to boasting a 1,200-item product line, ZoomEd also has an extensive reptile breeding program, with many species being kept at their incredible greenhouse facility located in California.
Thank you, ZoomEd, for supporting Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. All right.
Thank you, ZoomEd. So my first question is you're set to graduate, right, Tyler?
Yep.
Right? Yeah, everything's good. Nothing can stop that, right?
No.
Maybe the registrar at this point, but
Nothing can stop that. Okay. Well, that's good. So let's talk about Zac for a minute. Because remember, nothing can stop that now. So.
Actually, he hasn't signed the thesis yet, so there is that.
So there's still that. Gotcha.
Yeah, we'll forget about that for now.
So there's a few questions, and I'm gonna fire a couple so that you can be thinking of them as you talk. Obviously, I think that everyone who is listening that is considering potentially going to West Liberty, for these programs, I think they're going to want to hear. Yeah, there's all the field work, there's all the cool science stuff that you get to do, but I think something that's very important is who you're doing it with, who you're doing it, who's kind of leading you. So I really would like to hear, from someone who does, work with Zac and who has been led by Zac, for several years now, what that's like. But I also want to hear some of his quirks. I'd love to hear if there's the things that, I know that usually, like anybody who has a boss, there's things that everybody who works for them make fun of them about that they don't even know about. There's like those sayings or that they'll mock and make a voice of that sounds just like. I want to know those things about Zac too. So I want to hear the good, but I want to hear the funny.
It's safe, Tyler. You can go.
Dr. Loughman is just all around a phenomenal professor. If you're in his classes, you're gonna learn. And his teaching philosophy is like not necessarily test. He'll do oral exams and all sorts of ways to test your knowledge, but he really wants you to focus on learning rather than just getting the grade. He'll push you. Grad school, it's no joke. I would have to write 20 to 30 page papers for snake biology, but the key is he lets you have fun with it. And so it's a very broad, open-ended question. One was like, what is the evolutionary history of snakes? And was it a fossorial route or an aquatic route? And so we just got to go off, me and all the other grad students, finding papers, doing research, and honestly just having a lot of fun learning how to develop our thought process and write. There's also, a lot of that in undergrad, just being able to have fun and learn. If you want to get in on a project, all you got to do is ask. We have so many different things going on. And so hands-on learning is by far one of the biggest things. You can learn all the names and learn all the stuff from the books, but once you actually get out in the field, it might be a little bit different. And we'll talk about that with Iowa and everything there. But yeah, Dr. Loughman is phenomenal. If you ever need to find him, just slow down for a second and take 30 seconds to listen in our net, and you can probably locate roughly where he is. It is actually kind of nice. You don't really gotta like hunt him, like stalk him. You just like, okay, Dr. Loughman, he's probably, on the other end of the hall. But he's always happy to meet with you. And I know me and a lot of other students meet with him for even other things outside of outside of school. And he definitely cares about his students. I mean, even after my thesis defense and the private defense was done, I was waiting, and they were like, "Okay, you passed. Now we're going to talk about Tyler's future. Like, you're engaged. Like, we want to make sure that you're set up for the best success." So he really does care about you as a person, which is just absolutely amazing. And he wants to take the time to mentor you. And also like give you the freedom to do what you want so that you don't have this micromanaging person over you constantly. He lets you learn. You are going to fail sometimes. Stuff is going to fall through. It's never, you're a horrible person. Why did you do that? It's like, okay, cool. What did we learn? That's half of science is it didn't work. Now we know another way it didn't work, right? My first thesis actually was with Massasauga rattlesnakes. And we couldn't get it to work. We couldn't get the permits. And so Dr. Loughman called me and was like, "Hey, we need to pivot. Like, here's some ideas. Let's pick one." So we picked one and ran with it, and it ended up working out great. If you are on a trip with Dr. Loughman, though, know this. He is a little bit of a walking tornado sometimes. So we had our cabin in Iowa. And me and the two other grad students out there, Alyssa and Paige, we're trying to keep a tidy ship because there was like 6 of us living in this little trailer box thing. Like
it was a utility shed.
It was unique. We had cots in the living room that was also the kitchen, so we couldn't actually open the kitchen cabinets while everyone was sleeping. So everyone would have to get up so we could then use the kitchen. But I remember I picked Dr. Loughman up from the airport the first night he was coming to Iowa. And then I went to bed, and we woke up in the morning, and there were boots on the kitchen counter. And there was like just dirt everywhere. And Alyssa and Paige looked at me and were like, "He's been here for 6 hours. Like, how did this happen?" So yeah. He will also, he'll also teach you a lot of stuff in the field. I mean, the first venomous snakes I interacted with were Dr. Loughman being like, "All right, I know you like snakes. We're going to teach you how to not be an idiot with a copperhead." And so being able to do some of that stuff is really fun. Especially, he's a big fan of code words when we're looking for venomous snakes. So we were in the Poconos looking for timber rattlesnakes and copperheads. And so, if you're field herping, you don't want to be screaming rattlesnake, rattlesnake on the trail and scare a bunch of people. So he said, "You guys, if you see a venomous snake, we're going to say squirrel." Okay. And my friend Caleb and I are working this rock shelf, and I come around the corner and I don't see it, but about 5 feet in front of me is a timber rattlesnake. And my friend Caleb sees it and he goes, "Squirrel, spicy squirrel, maraca squirrel," like trying to communicate what
Maraca
this was. And so Dr. Loughman was like lower on the trail, and we're all like trying to kind of be subtle, but also like, "Hey, get up here." And so we're like, maraca squirrel, party squirrel, Dr. Loughman." And so he came running up, and we gotta observe, and actually ended up being a quite a large timber rattlesnake den. And me and my buddy Stanley have gone back since and found quite a few gravid females. It's just fun to watch them too. I mean, not even, you don't mess with them or anything. They're protected in Pennsylvania, but just being able to observe them is pretty cool.
I want to say something real quick on when you talked about you can find him. If you just stop and listen, you can find him. So there's 2 things. One, if I've answered the phone and I don't have Zac on speaker, it's funny because he and I will be having a conversation and I'm sitting in my recliner or something, and my wife will start laughing from across the room because she can hear everything Zac says.
Yeah, I'm loud.
Even though I do not have him on speakerphone and it's pressed against my ear. But I also thought it was funny because just on the way home last night, I called Zac because we had to catch up on a couple things. And Kaylee's riding with me, of course, on the way home. And I have it through the Bluetooth, and I call, and as it starts ringing, I go, "Hey, I'm sorry, this is going to be loud." I know
Well,
what
and
the
here's
answer.
the thing that's actually really good about that is it is like impossible to fall asleep when he lectures. Number one, he's loud. Number two, it's very engaging. So I mean, there's probably one or two students that have, but I have never been tired in a Dr. Loughman lecture. He's very, very energetic, and that the loudness helps contribute to that and really drives those points home sometimes.
That's awesome.
There you
I
go.
love it. Love it. Love it.
All right. Let's segue back.
Let's say let's hear about Iowa. Let's hear. I mean, this was, we've been lucky. I will say I have been lucky to get to one, be at Colubridfest, obviously, and get to hear the update. And that was, I mean, listening to you guys present what you have done at that point thus far, and the findings you had. One, I think it was probably one of the favorite moments for many of the individuals that attended Colubridfest. I think it was also a big reason that we had such a success at the auction that immediately followed your presentation, because it's one thing to have fun in an auction and know it's going to a good cause, but it's another thing to see exactly where the money had went, what it's doing, what it's going to do, and to hear that immediately upon, then segueing straight into, that auction. So I thought that was phenomenal. And it actually sparked, and I think I told you this, Tyler, that it sparked an incredible conversation that I then had with Chad Fuchs, shortly afterwards about it really put some things in perspective on how badly we have to conserve these areas because of how much can get lost in such a small, when I say a small area, we're not talking about, this little bitty time, but in the grand scheme of things, because of how much you guys found, the number of animals that you found in this little area, and to think that's about the size of an Amazon warehouse, a big warehouse complex, and what we could lose every time one of those are put up, in these undeveloped areas. So that, and then as well as, Zac, whenever you come on and give the updates on, certain findings and things of that nature, it's been incredible. It's been incredible for me to be able to hear this. And, just really, really love what you guys are doing. So, I mean, without further ado, Zac, I'm going to kind of turn this over to you because the questions to ask, on what's going on out there. So
just to give everybody an update so we can kind of get this out. Originally, the idea for Tyler's thesis was so Tyler went with me the first time we went to Iowa. He was on the original trip before. We were just going out there to take pictures for the Hognose Snake book and see what we could see. And there's a guy there who I'm sure we'll talk about tonight named Don, who's one of our collaborators out there. And when we got out there, Don was a little hesitant. He's a conservationist through and through. And he was basically like, what are these herpetoculture guys doing out here? We were being vetted. Within a day, I think Don told all of us, like, he knew we were the kind of people that he wanted to be affiliated with. And he asked me about crayfish. And I was like, yeah, I study crayfish too. And then Don knows every single herpetologically oriented human being in Iowa. And immediately it was like, you got to go meet this guy named Dale. And I was like, what? Like, we're here for hognose snakes, man. And he's like, okay, but we're going to go see Dale. That's how that went. So we basically went to see Dale. Dale is a Nature Conservancy biologist who basically manages this population of Massasoit rattlesnakes. We started talking to Dale. And then immediately, boom, there's a project. And the idea with the initial project was that with the crayfish biology that I do, there's the burrowing crayfish like that Crawzilla you found behind Metazotics. And we've learned how to basically relocate them and create a new colony. And one of my dream projects, which is still going to happen, is being able to take crayfish from a field or some place where we're putting up an Amazon warehouse, like you were talking about, and then relocate them to expand in a natural environment, put them back into nature. Then they create the habitat that all the burrowing obligate species need. And I never in a million years thought that this project would go together so quickly because Massasaugas are federally listed. But one of the things that we love about Iowa is that the Iowans get it. Like, were able to navigate the bureaucracy insanely efficiently, even though it's a little bit ironic what I'm going to say about this project. And so that was going to be Tyler's thesis, because I knew he was staying on for grad school. Then we got all the permits, but we couldn't get the freaking permit in time to get that started last spring. So that was going to be the thesis. Thank God Tyler listened to me. And then I was like, we're going to pivot. And I was writing the book at the time, still am. And I was doing this huge lit review on their feeding habits of all hognose snakes. And I basically said to Tyler, hey, maybe we can do a feeding study, because while we were out there, we saw some pretty cool feeding behavior. And that's how I remember it. Is that how you remember it, Tyler? Or am I leaving?
No, yeah, we met with Dale. Yeah, met with Dale, and then one of the permitting things, either the state or federal level, fell through, and we weren't going to get it in time for the field season. And that's the hard thing with a master's degree is, at best you have 2 field seasons to do this. And the way we were going to do this study was set it up the first season and then do all the sampling the second season. So if we missed that initial setup window, we weren't going to be able to do anything. So we put that on the back burner. Dr. Loughman called me and was throwing out ideas. And the one was very similar to a paper by Andrew Durso, looking at hognose snake diet using eDNA. And he was like, the genetics sometimes scares me, because genetics is tricky, especially when you're usually a rock flipping biologist. But we decided, let's give it a shot. This could be really, really cool if we pull this off. And so that's what we did.
So why don't you introduce your actual project before we talk about what a day in the life out at Iowa is? So what is your project? What did we collect for your project? And then try to make it mentally digestible, because I barely understand what we did. So to the audience, you do, I kind of do. So
okay,
there you go.
So my project originally was using fecal samples, so taking hognose snake poop and then trying to determine what they ate from the leftover DNA in it. And so what we had to do is, obviously we had to collect the fecal samples, but the hognose snakes at this site are considered critically endangered by the DNR in Iowa. So we didn't want to overly stress them out. But luckily, hognose snakes, they play dead, right? So one of the benefits of that is if they play dead, they usually try and poop on themselves too. So it was this weird, we found a hognose snake, let's get everything set up. I would get my buffer tube. That is, it's a solution that we could put the fecal sample in so that the DNA wouldn't degrade anymore. We get everything set up and be like, okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, open the trap, grab the hognose snake, try and get the fecal sample into the tube without dropping it on the ground so it didn't get contaminated. And we did that with a whole bunch of hognose snakes. It was interesting. The earlier you caught them in the season, the more likely they were to exhibit that thanatosis response. If we caught them multiple times or even once later in the season, they'd kind of gotten used to us. So it was a little bit harder to get later season fecal samples, because they were like, oh, sweet, a human. They're going to pull on my tail, measure me, and then let me go. I don't need to be scared. So that was a little bit tricky, but we got enough fecal samples to do it. And so what I did is I then took those fecal samples back to the lab, had to pull the DNA out of them. And then we did a really, really cool sequencing, which is you take the DNA strands and read each base pair. We did a really cool sequencing method called next-gen ligation sequencing, where we were able to take each sample, and then all the DNA that sample, we marked it with a specific, what we call a barcode. And so that allows the computer, when you're sequencing, to say, these DNA fragments came from this sample. And then we could compile all of those together, and we could run 15 snakes on one little device called a flow cell. And so we did that, and we there's me with a working a snake up with a pit tag, and then there's my
Poop sample.
poop sample in a tube. But we would then take those DNA sequences that we got, and we had to run them against a database. Now, the tricky thing with vertebrate DNA that's been digested is all of those cells are getting ripped apart by the different enzymes in the snake's digestive system,
Yeah.
right? They're trying to pull the nutrients out of them.
Mhm.
And so those enzymes and things are breaking down the DNA that's inside whatever the prey item is. And so there is still this remnant DNA when the snake poops it out, but it is very degraded, very chopped up in little bits. And so to determine what it is, you have to do this fancy like splicing thing. I don't fully understand it. This is where Dr. Garrison comes in to help me. But you start to align the different samples that have been chopped up and then run those against a database to see what animals you got. Now, the issue with vertebrate DNA is it is extremely long, and it takes a lot of computing power to be able to read that. So we figured out how to do it. The clock was ticking, though, before my defense, and it was taking like 3 weeks to get one sample read because we had so much DNA. And we had some of my runs had 20 billion base pairs, billion
That's
with a B.
Mhm.
And so the computer is going through and counting each one, going, A, C, T, G, C, A, and then it has to do all that counting for us. But what we realized is the program that we ran it through automatically filtered it through a bacteria database. Um, and so bacteria DNA is much shorter, and we have a little bit more of a defined genome we're looking for. We're looking at specific parts of the DNA strand. We're not looking for the entire length. And so we looked at the data we had there and realized this is actually a really cool data set. Like, why not run with the bacteria and what we call the microbiome? So all the different little organisms living inside of you that help with your digestion, and not just your digestion, your immune system, neural development. The bacteria inside of you actually play a huge, huge role in even who you are. Um, and so as I was reading up on this stuff, I was like, this is kind of awesome.
Yep.
It's a brand new field of science. In snakes, this has only been really done in the last like 5 years, is really when it started in snakes. And the sample sizes for this are quite small. I think one of the largest studies, there was a study that looked at a whole bunch of species of snakes, but it had like one hognose snake, two racers, one water snake, right? So it was kind of a 50,000 foot view of let's just look at the microbiome of these snakes as a whole. But if you looked at the papers on specific species, they might only have 3 individuals or 4 individuals. And so we realized with this data set, we had 30 Heterodon nasicis sequenced and ready to go. And we had, 6 platyrhinos, which there's a big difference there, a lot less eastern hognose snakes, but that is still at least as many as all of the other studies. And so we looked at what the microbiome composition of these snakes was, what different bacteria were there. A lot of them are very similar to what humans have. And so we kind of theorized that they might be used in similar manner in snakes, but a snake is a reptile. So we can't say anything for sure that this bacteria that is used to break down proteins in humans is used in the exact same way as snakes. We just know it's there now, which is kind of that starting block for this research to continue. We also looked a lot at what potential risks could these snakes have. We hear a lot about salmonella with all of the, picking up turtles,
Mhm.
kid gets salmonella from chicken eggs or something. So we were also really investigating what do these snakes carry? We don't want to be afraid of handling them, but it's a good idea to have an idea of what the bacteria of these snakes are in case we do get some sort of infection, especially out in the field. And what we found was actually pretty shocking. There's a genus of bacteria called Morganella, which can cause some fun infections. But the more I looked into the research, it's actually fairly heavily associated with snakes, especially snakes that eat things like toads. You look at Natrix, the grass snake in Europe, they have a decent bit of Morganella. There's a Protobothrops species. There was a case study on a bite that one of them had where they didn't treat for a bacterial infection after the bite. And that snake had Morganella in its saliva. And so there was what we call a secondary infection after that.
Mhm.
And so just having a basic understanding of what the potential infections could be are really important, maybe less so in the United States here, but possibly kind of propagating this form of research elsewhere where they don't have, as good antibiotic treatment in some of these other countries.
Very
So.
cool.
So, real quick before we move past that, salmonella specifically, how rampant was that?
It was up there. We didn't actually see it as much in Heterodon platyrhinos. It was there, but not in as large of quantities as the Western hognose, the Nasicis. The interesting thing, though, is that the juvenile Heterodon Nasicis had significantly higher levels of salmonella than the adults.
Interesting.
And I think that's a little bit to do with the diet. But we can talk about diet here in a minute.
Sure.
Okay. The reason I asked that is because obviously that's the one that the general public stigmatizes, reptiles with, and puts that on. It's, the kids with the turtle in their mouth, it's why you can't have a turtle under 4 inches, that kind of thing. So yeah, I was just curious how, what did the science actually tell us, so.
Well, and part of the reason with salmonella, why it's so prevalent in reptiles, is reptiles are kind of the perfect storm as a host. They like unstable conditions, and so a reptile is an ectotherm. Its body temperature varies a lot.
Yeah.
They don't eat very often, so there's a big influx in nutrients. And when you're a baby, you're more stressed. So salmonella in adults, they might not shed it as much, but a baby, there's a predator, when am I going to eat? I'm too hot. There's a lot more stress on a neonate, so they're more likely to shed those salmonella bacteria into their feces, and that is potentially more likely to cause some sort of salmonella infection.
Yeah, makes sense.
So with that being said, I want to kind of backtrack now, and so you got to get the poop samples, which means you got to get the snakes. So let's just talk about a day in the field. So before we get to Iowa, we have this tradition now. We did it in 2025. We've now done it in 2026, where we've got to build these fences. So Max, if you can hear me, if you could put up an image of a bunch of people putting up a drift fence, that would be great. But the way that the fences work is we go out there in late March or April. This year it was in early April. I think we go there in early April, actually, right before the snakes come out. And we have to basically make what we call drift fences. The rest of the world calls silt fences. So here we are. You can see the picture next to the many, many, many hognose snakes in the trap, where you're basically constructing the fence. So talk a little bit about what this is like.
Okay, so there's 2 options for installing a drift fence. And if anyone wants to do this, I highly, highly suggest you rent a trencher.
Yes.
That's what they normally do. And that's what we did for the setup this year for all of our fences. We installed just under a mile of fencing. We worked literally nonstop all day. It was pretty awesome. And so you dig a trench, and then you take this silt fence and you put about a third of it underground and then bury it. You know, hognose snakes are semi-fossorial, so we don't want them to be able to dig under the fence immediately. But then 2/3 of it is above the ground. And so as the snakes are slithering along, they run into the fence and they have to either go right or left. They can't keep going straight. And then all along the fence, we have these minnow traps that are usually used to catch, you know, minnows or crawdads. They are also very good at catching snakes. And we put boards over them so it looks a little bit more like shelter and it keeps the sun off of them so they don't overheat. And then we go along each line of drift fencing and we check each trap to see what the snakes in there are. This picture was pretty special. Back in 2018, they only found 25 Western hognose snakes on the site. This year we found over 500. So if you want a conservation success story, that's up there in my book. That is a substantial increase. And so just the fact that we caught 6 hognose snakes in one trap was insane. It was 2 females that were being tracked by 4 males, we think for the breeding season. And the funny thing was the guys out there, Don, we brought him up earlier, he is turning into just a little bit of an all-around naturalist rather than just a straight herpetologist. And so we've got, you know, this is like the only population of these snakes in Iowa. And we just caught 6 of them in the trap. And then on the traps immediately adjacent, we caught 2 more. So we caught 8 hognose snakes at once, right? Absolutely insane. I think that day we ended up catching 18 or something. But Dawn looks at the trap, goes, "Oh, that's nice. Have fun working that up. I'm going to go find bugs." And then walked off into the prairie to go find wasps. So this was a very special moment for all of us. Just the amount of work we put in. If you don't know Iowa, it gets hot. Like Florida level hot and tropical. Like I'm a runner. I would get up at 4 a.m. so I could get my run in because that's the only time during the day you were able to run was 4 a.m. If you waited any later, it would get too hot. We would be driving to the site. Humidity is 99%. The corn sweat is real. And temperatures that day in the city are reading 95. At the field site, they're always 10 degrees higher. So you have 98% humidity with 105-degree temperatures, but then the sand is also really fun. Dr. Loughman loves sand.
I love sand.
And sand does this really fun thing where it radiates heat. And so you're walking on this sandhill prairie, and if there's a reason in July you don't catch anything because we're the only ones stupid enough to be walking around on the prairie. Everything else is underground. They don't want to be moving. We would take temp guns and record ground temperatures of like 160 to 180. So it would get pretty toasty. That's kind of like the long days of summer. Our typical day, we would get to the site in the morning, probably about 8 to 9 a.m. And then throughout the day, we would run lines. Once all the lines were checked, we would go herping, just seeing what we could find walking across the dunes and the prairies, flipping boards, things like that. And then once we had transmitters in the snakes, 1 or 2 people would go off and track snakes or track turtles while the other people continued to look for snakes. After a couple hours, the traps had kind of reset. We would go run the lines again. And what we actually found, you would think these snakes are stuck in these traps. They're not. It is actually quite easy for them to get out. In fact, I was almost done with one line, and I flipped a trap. I was like, okay, there's a ribbon snake in here. Got it. I'm going to finish running this line. I'm going to take 30 more steps, and then I'll come back, work the ribbon snake up, and we'll be good, and the line's done. I took 30 steps. As I'm walking back, the ribbon snake's not in the trap. It's gone. And I look up, and it's 50 feet down the line, slithering away from me. So I book it after this thing, and I ended up catching it, so I saved the data. But they move in and out all the time. So when we're catching these, it's either they've just entered the trap or they've chosen to stay in the trap as some sort of shelter, which is really interesting. And we got two fun pictures. Dr. Loughman is photographing. I'm guessing it's a hognose snake on the ground there, with one of those drift fences. And we have some really cool blue racers on the site. They're kind of a little bit more of like a midnight blue. Although my friend Stanley has one that looks like it ate a highlighter. But the racers are really fun. That's actually my first face bite from a snake. Was a big female blue racer. And oh my gosh, the racers are smart, okay? They know when you're paying attention and when you're not. So I caught a big female racer. She was all of 3.5, maybe pushing 4 feet. She was a big racer. And she was sweet as could be coming out of the trap. I mean, like, this is not a normal racer experience. Maybe usually they're musking all over you. They're biting you, typical racer things, but she was nice. I was like, oh my gosh, a big, nice racer. Like this is the best day ever. I love racers. And so I'm doing the workup and I start to get a little complacent with her. And she's watching me as racers do. They're really smart. And she gets just within range of my eyes. And I mean, like, as soon as it was like she was possessed by a demon. I mean, launched at my face, and she was not the bite and let go. It was the grab on and chew for a while. So she was chewing on my face. I finally got her off, and she wouldn't calm down after that. I think I sent Max a video. I don't know if we can get it up, but I've got like blood dripping down my hands. She just like kept biting and biting and biting and biting and biting. But yeah, the racers on site were pretty special, and the baby racers actually predominantly eat grasshoppers. So if anyone keeps racers, there's a little tidbit of information for you. A lot of the racers in Iowa are the juveniles, at least, are mainly eating grasshoppers as prey.
Sure,
very neat. Quick sidebar tangent here, talking about, because that's always been one of my biggest fears, is taking a shot in the eye. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of ours, Zach, I don't know if you know this yet or not, but Jared Greer messaged me just the other day and said, just an FYI, a king rat snake bite to the eye will ruin your day and your vision. Where apparently it caused retinal damage, everything. Where he's getting into specialist, all this, from a king rat bite to the eye. So Tyler, be careful.
That's a little bit bad. King rat's a little bit worse than a racer.
A tooth is a tooth, my friend, and I know
that's true.
How fragile a retina is. That's what I came from for the last 20 years. So be careful with snakes around the face, people. They can really.
Maybe we need to send everyone to Iowa with glasses.
That's right. Big goggles out in that heat. And you're talking about the heat. I thought this was interesting. Eric Westmoreland had shared just this past weekend. They were out there, and the air temps were only 65 to 71. But the sand prairie, the ground temps were 135. That's wild.
Yep.
So, here we go.
Yeah, there's the racer.
So if you're in your car, we're watching a video of Tyler just getting.
And it's a little foggy because the humidity.
Yes.
It's just.
Yeah. And this is why we're studying the racers this year, because we kind of fell in love with them, and they are probably one of the more important predators of the heterodon out there, because when they get to be over 2 to 3 feet, we're pretty positive they're just eating everything and anything that they come in contact with. So there you go. So another question I want to talk about is one of the things that we were told about with Dawn and Jim and Dr. Josh, our collaborators out there, we massive credit to those guys, is when we went on our first trip, they had mentioned that the hognose snakes eat turtle eggs. And that was one of the main things that led to Tyler's thesis, because initially we wanted to see if we could figure out what turtles before this microbiome thing kind of happened. And, here I am, this guy writing this book, and I'd read about them eating turtle eggs. I'd gone to Minnesota and walked around with a guy named Chris Smith and Eric Hoagland, who were both professional biologists there. and they mentioned that their hognose snakes were eating turtle eggs, but I was not prepared for what has ensued since our time in Iowa, because it has led to us completely rethinking Nassicus, plains, hognose snakes, westerns, whatever you want to call them. So why don't we just tell the story, because we like stories here, of the first time on that first trip when we first encountered a hognose snake with a turtle nest. So I'm going to hear your version of it.
Okay. So,
well, I have one thing. I told everybody I want to see, like, we got in the van. I didn't want to look weird in front of Dawn and Jim, but I told the students, like, we're seeing this before we leave. Like, it was a demand. It wasn't a statement. It was like, this is happening before we get out of Iowa, because I need to see this. So that needs to be the premise. So you know that which orders were given to the troops, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this was actually a really fun day. I don't know if Dr. Loughman remembers this. We all went out to get Mexican food for dinner, and we took Dawn with us. And so it was me, Loughman, Sophia, and Stanley in the car. They were the other two undergrads with us. We left the Mexican restaurant and we're driving back to the prairie, and the clouds were vortexing over our heads.
Yes.
And so we were like, we're going to find hognose snakes in a tornado. There was no tornado. We're not that reckless, but it would have been fun. So yeah, there's some fun clouds. But we go out to the prairie, and we were getting some data for another grad student's thesis. And the important thing with data is keep it consistent who's measuring. So Stanley and Sophia took charge on the measuring. Thank you, guys. And so I kind of got cut loose to go wander the prairie and find stuff. And so they're finishing measuring a snake and taking pictures and everything. And I kind of go off into the distance looking for snakes, and I come across a big Nassicus with its head down a hole. And I'm like, what is it doing? And then I remembered what Dawn had said, like, they eat turtle eggs. And I was like, oh my gosh, I found it. Like, I found it. And so I'm trying to figure out how to signal everyone that I've got something cool without disturbing the snake.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried, and I'm trying to video it, because I know Dr. Loughman's going to want the video. So I can't call people because my video is rolling. And so I'm waving my arms. I'm trying not to jump up and down so the vibrations don't disturb the snake. I don't want to shout in case that does anything. And I'm like, I probably looked crazy, like waving my arms around the dudes, like, over here, over here. And I think Dawn looked at you and he's like, yeah, he probably found a hognose eating a turtle nest or something.
And then I ran.
And then Dr. Loughman ran. And Dr. Loughman, when he wants to see a hognose snake eating turtle eggs, he can move, and there ain't anything stopping him.
Juggernauts.
And so everyone runs up, and it was a pretty cool moment just watching this snake dig for these turtle eggs, and you could see it like undulating to get the eggs down. And so we saw the snake, pulled it out of the nest once it had kind of finished eating. We're counting the number of eggs that were in its stomach, taking weights. And so we had a bunch of eggs left over in the turtle nest, you can see there. And so what we did, we put those eggs back, and then we marked it with pink flags. And so we came back the next day, and I was like, okay, I got to go back to the pink flags. Like, the conditions are very similar. Like, there's no way I'm getting lucky twice, but like maybe. And so I go back to the same spot with the flags, and lo and behold, there's another hognose snake raiding that nest. And so you can see the hognose snake, its head's in the ground. You can see it. It's not great, but you can kind of see it undulating to like move the eggs further down its stomach. And it turned out that these two, maybe three snakes that had raided it had consumed almost all of the eggs in the nest. And it was not a small nest. I mean, there was probably 25 turtle eggs in there. Some of them were destroyed just from the hognose snakes kind of rooting around and punctured them with their nose. But some of the snakes we've seen will throw up 10, 12 eggs, and they're not small eggs. They're like, maybe about the size of a golf ball. And so it's been really, really weird to see snakes that you keep in captivity and you feed them a mouse once a week, and you don't want them to eat a really big prey item. You see these snakes, they can't bend. There is so much food in them, they literally can't coil up. And this is true for the babies too. They can't eat a turtle egg because they're too small, but they'll eat race runners, the little lizards. And the lizards are literally bigger than the snakes.
Yeah.
And so they're like stuffed sausages. When you let them go, their escape method is to roll down the hill. So
of course it is. Of all snakes, of course it's the hognose.
Yes.
That rolls around like a fat little sausage
Yep.
down the hill to escape. Of course it's the hognose. It's great.
Yep.
Yeah. So what this has done for me to kind of bring the natural history herping into herpetoculture, and we talked about this in Tyler's thesis, is that everything we've read about hogs is like toads. They eat toads. Toads this, toads that, toads this, toads that. While the Easterns definitely do that, the Nassicus, the plains, have this much more cosmopolitan diet. And Tyler helped me with a big lit review for the book. And we put this huge spreadsheet of all the known records of dietary items for hognose snakes. And it turns out that toads are on that list, but Western plains hogs eat a lot of rodents. They eat a lot of lizards. They six-line race runners are like gumdrops to these things. But the other thing is, when the turtles are present, turns out our Iowa population's not really that unique. When the sand prairie meets the wetland, which happens a lot, we're seeing that these animals are doing what in ecology we call boom bust feeding. There's a resource that's available in large numbers, and that appears to be what they're eating in mass. And a lot of snakes do this, and then they just don't eat after that, or they eat rarely. And so it's really changed my perspective. And one of the super cool things about Tyler's thesis, to give him some credit, is when we were looking at the microbiome of the Eastern hognose snakes and the Western hognose snakes, what we ended up finding out is that the Western hognose snake, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, it's the one with the more diverse biome?
Less diverse.
Less diverse. Yeah. It's less diverse, which was weird because it's got the more diverse diet. And one of the things that I want Tyler to speak to, because we're getting near the end here, is, so you did this microbiome study. We're looking at like the gut bacteria of a hognose snake. Why the hell should anybody listening to Colubrid and Colubroid radio that keeps hognose snakes care about what you found with the microbiome?
Yeah, so microbiome, as I kind of said in the beginning, plays a much bigger role than we give it credit for. One, aids in digestion. And so in order for a reptile to get a proper microbiome, they've got to be able to consume the bacteria. Unlike people, we start out with a microbiome from our mothers. That's seeded through the umbilical cord into our gastrointestinal system. Snakes that are living in eggs don't have that. And so their microbiome comes from the food that they eat. And those microbes, one, help digest things. They break things down. And so if you feed a broader array of food, they have more different bacteria. And so you have the potential for an increased nutrient uptake in those snakes. They can digest things better. But they also play a really important role in immune function. They do a couple of different things where the good bacteria, we call them probiotic bacteria, they actually block out all the potential pathogens and outcompete them. Their other byproducts that they produce can also be used by the body to help seal the gaps in between cells to prevent potential infections. And the probiotic bacteria, if there is something wrong, are actually used by the body to indicate an infection is present. And different bacteria species do different things. And so feeding a more diverse diet allows for all of the correct bacteria to be there in order for these snakes to function, especially in the wild where they're introduced to all sorts of different bacteria and viruses. So they have to be able to have a really robust immune system, because they can't go to the doctor and get antibiotics if they're sick. They have to be able to fight it off themselves. And so understanding more about how this microbiome works could allow us to have healthier snakes in captivity, and that less vet bills sounds great for everyone, right? We don't want our snakes to suffer with infections either. And so understanding what food items are driving those kind of key bacteria that are used in things like immune response are really, really important for our future kind of preventative veterinary care of our animals.
So one of the theses that is absolutely going to happen resultant of this is Tyler essentially just got the control for a bigger, badder study, because as a scientist, I immediately started thinking, okay, so we've got these snakes, they're out on this grass prairie, they're eating turtle eggs, they're eating six-line race runners, they're eating the occasional mole, if you know your mammals, of deer mouse, paramyscus, and pocket mice are out there. There's a whole bunch of small rodents. And every time they eat those things, their gut is essentially being inoculated with the bacteria that's in that prey. And then you kick over to human care where we dwell. And what do we do for our snakes as a general rule? We call up a rodent company, get a bunch of frozen rodents, and they get the same mice from the same distributor their entire lives. Mm-hmm. And we know that the bacteria in your gut helps you digest. It literally helps you assimilate energy. And so we are going to absolutely now use our friends that have large hognose snake collections, know a couple of those, they've been on our show, and see if we can go to their collections and just get poop. Because if we can get poop, we can bring that back and we can look at the microbiome of captive snakes versus the microbiome of wild snakes. And then this is why stuff like science being brought into herpetoculture, there's probably people out there thinking about this, don't get me wrong. But I don't think about this before this. And it's really made me wonder, like, crypto. Crypto is an organism that lives in the gut. If it gets into the gut and the gut's not colonized with a normal community of bacteria and fungi and yeast and things like that, maybe it gets into that environment. It has zero competition because the normal gut biota is not present. And then that makes it so it's much easier for it to inoculate. Whereas if the snake had a normal, i.e. natural flora, maybe it's harder for the crypto to take hold. Maybe that's why we don't see crypto as often in these wild snakes, or it's not impacting them the same way, because it could be the opposite. There could be species of bacteria in the gut that are present in wild animals that when crypto shows up, they help kind of push back the impacts of crypto. And then you look at our animals that are being fed a laboratory mouse diet. They just don't have, they're never were inoculated with those beneficial bacteria, so they don't have that helper present. And I know that one of my friends and a listener of the show, Dr. Christopher Brown, is listening to this, probably bouncing up and down in his car because he listens to every episode, because we're going to be talking about a future paper that might have involved microbiome and some crypto whenever it gets published very soon. But yeah, that's why things like this is a plug. I'm not even going to hide it. When we fund things like the Conservation Corp, I get to then make future Tylers, and Tyler's made us all very proud. I know Clint and I are incredibly proud of what you've done. Absolutely. And then that's going to lead to, science that then helps these wild snakes, and it helps us be better keepers. And that's the whole goal of what we're doing. And we're near the end, but I want to say, Tyler, you crushed it. You nailed it. I got a little misty when you were defending. I just made it seem like I was teasing. So, because, it's been wonderful watching you grow as a scientist, and I know you're going to go on to do great things. But it was also amazing seeing proof of concept. that was, you know, this brand idea that our little podcast and Colubridfest came up with. Thank you for making it come to fruition, because you did. Good job.
And I want to thank you guys, both of you, for bringing the rest of us on this journey. You know what I mean? It's because so much of this kind of thing, those of us in the hobby never get to even hear it, never get to, let alone being out and experiencing it. But even getting to experience it through you guys is something that really is kind of new for so many of us. Even me, who I've been in this for over 30 years, but this was something brand new for me to get to experience from hearing all these steps along the way, through the updates. It's been quite incredible. And I think that a lot of our listeners would probably agree, with that statement. And so, as Zac just said, it's something that by donating to the conservation fund, we're able to then provide the resources needed for people like Tyler to go out and shine and get to do what they do. And, we all benefit from it. So please, if you're enjoying what you're hearing and you want to hear more of this for years and years to come, all across the country and potentially across the world, eventually, that go to Colubrid and Colubroidradio.com. There's donate buttons, all over the place for the CCR Conservation Fund. Go send the money. I popped something up earlier. We know Eric Westmoreland is listening. The Westmorelands, they donate after every show because they sell bracelets and things like that. And so we've had other individuals who have done auctions on Morph Market and things like that, where the proceeds they will donate to the fund. There are zoos and other institutions that Metazotics works with that 10% of every purchase they make with us, we donate. So there's so many ways that can be done, and we're incredibly grateful for everyone who has, who will, and we hope that hearing this entire episode has made you want to be a part of this with us, because it's exciting. And Tyler, great freaking job, man. Great job.
Yep.
Well, thanks.
So,
and I just want to say that conservation thing, we don't take it lightly. All the money from that, like every single penny, is spent well. We eat and walk. Like, we don't take lunch breaks. We want to get as much data. That's not because
I'm driving. Well, maybe it is. I don't know.
I know Zac does not feed you guys well. I've heard this. That's going to be something when you're with me, buddy. You're going to have good meals, okay? Zac's a little tweaks when he walks. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But like every single penny that's donated, we put to use. We're building freaking weather stations out there so we can get real-time data on all the species, the most up-to-date, like micro habitat stuff. We have what we call derpy stations that are tracking beat frequencies in real time, so we know exactly what temperature different snakes are at. And so, even if you guys can donate a little bit, every single bit helps, because the amount of data we're getting is insane. You are not going to see anything like this on any other project. The fact that we caught, I think it was like 1,500 snakes in like 4 months, you don't get that anywhere else. It's absolutely incredible. And the fact that everyone in Iowa is rooting for us and helping us along with this has really been a cool picture of what the herpetoculture community can do if we all come together. Like this population of snakes and endangered turtles was on the brink of extinction. And in some ways it still is. And so being able to study this and push its conservation forward so we can keep learning and keep getting this information, it means the world to us, you guys.
Yeah.
I want to throw this up because I think this is a question that most people who have same thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Most people who are listening to this, they're going to want to know this, Tyler.
So what is Tyler doing afterwards?
Yep. What are you doing after you're done with university?
Right now, I have a job with an environmental consulting company as an environmental scientist for a little bit. And then I'm currently in talks with Dr. Loughman and Dr. Josh, some other professors, about getting into a PhD, and seeing what projects there are for me, potentially going back to Iowa. But we will see. I fully intend to come back to the field of research and academia. My goal is eventually to be a professor like Dr. Loughman at a small school. He's actually the one that inspired me to do that. Like I said, when I came into West Liberty, I wanted to be a zookeeper, and then I realized the incredible impact that Dr. Loughman has on so many people's lives. And I was like, if I could be just a fraction of that, I feel like I would have a pretty cool, significant life story to tell there. So
That's great.
Thanks, bud.
I love it. He'll sign off on it now.
I'll sign off on it.
You will graduate.
You can graduate. Well, I got to say one more thing about Tyler, and then we'll move on. So I was, how old was I? 26. I graduated with my master's when I was 27. Tyler is 21 and has an undergraduate and a master's degree, which is crazy. I was like counting on fingers because that's how I do maths. And I was like, he's only been here 4 freaking years. So, you know, he's gonna go to great places. Proud of you, man. You know that. And one final thing before we bounce, I think Tyler and I both have to give some mad props to our collaborators in Iowa, Dr. Josh, Jim, and Don, because we would not be able to do any of this without them. West Liberty kind of shows up, and I'm not there because as much as I want to be out there all the damn time. That's for sure. But I've got crayfish projects and school things and, things like that. And I was a little hesitant because I thought, oh God, what's going to happen when these students are out there and I'm not there. And it was wonderful. I mean, it's just, I went to some training and they're like, you shouldn't say that, but I'm going to say it because it's true. It's just one great big nerdy family in Iowa. And that's the way it should be. And that's the vibe I want. Like I am doing some very high-end, highly funded research right now. It is not a family vibe. I don't really want to be there. But, that's the other thing. It's like this little engine that could. I love it to death. And it's going to absolutely conserve snakes, teach young people, and then get us some data that we can use as herpetoculturalists, which doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
All right. If people want to reach out to you, Tyler, yes, I'm asking you this too. We have some prospective students that would like to get like the real story, or somebody's listening to this and you want to reach out to Tyler for possibly employment. Where can they find you and how can they do that?
Instagram, I'm at Tyler.Schwisow. Facebook, Tyler Schwisow, and then my email for school is tschwisow@westliberty.edu.
Spell Schwisow.
I was going to say spell it.
SCHWISOW.
There we go. All right. Thank you for coming on, bud. This was wonderful.
Clint, yeah, thank you for having me.
No worries, man. Where can they find you?
You can find me at on Facebook, Clint Bartley, Metazotics, Instagram, MetazoticsLLC. Of course, you can always take a look at everything we have available at metazotics.com. Use coupon code CC Radio at checkout. Save yourself 5%. As a reminder, if you're listening to this and not watching it, we have our Patreon right now. You can get 1 month free. That's only going to be 100 of those that we're giving away. And I just checked, and 17 of them have already been used while we're doing this live. So, 17% have already been taken. So, we're only going to do 100. Hop on there, check it out. We look forward to it. And thanks again, Tyler.
Yeah. And then I'm going to say one thing. A lot of times people will listen to these kinds of things and they'll be like, oh, I need to go there and see those snakes. I do, as a conservationist, want to give a message. Please just leave the site alone. It's fenced off. You can't get to it. If you're seen on it, you are going to be arrested and you may be tackled by Dawn. So you just need to know that we are, there's active research going on out there. So we are trying to keep the footprint as minimal as possible, but still be able to get the data. And we love you all. But the site does need to be respected, and so I do feel the need to kind of throw that out into the ether right now. But if you want to get a hold of me, Dr. Crawdad on Instagram, Zac Loughman on Facebook, and then just reach out. And it was fantastic having one of my students on, and I'm glad you were the first one, Tyler. This was great.
It's great.
So, be it evening, afternoon, morning, or night, whatever time of day it is, have a good one, and we will see you on the next episode of Colubrid and Colubroid.